Cricket originated in England in the 16th century and became a popular global sport by the 20th century. International matches started in the 19th century, with Test cricket beginning in 1877. The International Cricket Council (ICC) governs the sport, overseeing over 100 member countries. Cricket has various formats, from short T10 matches to long Test matches. Cricket emerged in England during the Saxon or Norman periods, likely originating as a children's game in the Weald, a region of dense woodlands and clearings spanning Kent and Sussex. The earliest definitive written reference to the game dates back to the late 16th century. Several theories exist about cricket's origins, including claims that it was developed in France or Flanders. One speculative reference from 1300 mentions King Edward II playing Krieg and other games in Westminster and Newenden. While Krieg has been suggested as an Old English term for cricket, experts generally believe it was an early spelling of crack, meaning fun and games in general. It is widely believed that cricket remained a children's game for centuries before gaining popularity among adults around the start of the 17th century. The game may have evolved from bowls, assuming bowls is the older sport, with the addition of a batsman attempting to hit the ball away from its target. Played on sheep-grazed land or in clearings, early equipment likely consisted of a matted lump of sheep's wool, or possibly a stone or a small piece of wood, as the ball, a stick or crook or other farm tool as the bat, and a stool, tree stump, or gate such as a wicket gate as the wicket. John Derrick, a former pupil at the Royal Grammar School, then the Free School, in Guildford, recounted playing cricket around 1550 with his school friends. In 1597 Old Style, 1598 New Style, a court case in Surrey, England, involving a land ownership dispute in Guildford, referenced the game of cricket. A 59-year-old coroner, John Derrick, testified that he and his schoolmates had played the game on the disputed site 50 years earlier while attending the Free School. Derrick's account firmly establishes that cricket was being played in Surrey around 1550, making it the earliest widely accepted reference to the sport. The first mention of adults playing cricket appears in 1611 when two men in Sussex were prosecuted for playing the game on a Sunday instead of attending church. In the same year, a dictionary defined cricket as a boys' game, suggesting that adult participation was a relatively new development. An account of a case brought before the King's Bench in 1640 records a cricket match between the Weald and Upland that occurred approximately 30 years earlier. Derivation of the name cricket. Several words are considered potential sources for the term cricket. In the earliest known reference, it was spelled cricket. The name may have originated from the Middle Dutch crick, meaning a stick, or the Old English crick, or kruis, meaning a crutch or staff. Alternatively, it could be derived from the French word criquet, which translates to a wooden post. The Middle Dutch term kriekstoel refers to a long, low stool used for kneeling in church, resembling the long, low wicket with two stumps used in early cricket. According to Heine Gillmeister, a European language expert at the University of Bonn, cricket may be derived from the Middle Dutch phrase for hockey, met de, cricket, sen, meaning with the stick chase. It is more probable that cricket terminology originated from words used in southeast England at the time. Given the trade connections with the county of Flanders, particularly in the 15th century when it belonged to the Duchy of Burgundy, many Middle Dutch words were likely introduced into Southern English dialects. The Commonwealth. During the Commonwealth period after the Civil War, Puritan laws restricted unlawful assemblies and enforced stricter Sabbath observance. This may have led to a decline in cricket popularity among the lower classes. However, cricket continued in public schools. While there's no evidence of a complete ban, the authorities tolerated cricket as long as it didn't violate Sabbath laws. The nobility also began adopting the sport through village games. Gambling and press coverage. Cricket flourished after the Restoration in 1660, attracting significant gambling interest at this time. High-stakes matches may have begun during this period, according to some historians. In 1664, the Cavalier Parliament passed the Gaming Act, limiting stakes to £100, a substantial sum equivalent to approximately £19,000 today. By the end of the 17th century, cricket had become a prominent gambling sport, as evidenced by a newspaper report from 1697 of a great match played in Sussex with high stakes. With the granting of freedom of the press in 1696, cricket could be reported in newspapers for the first time. However, the newspaper industry took considerable time to adapt to providing frequent or comprehensive coverage of the game. During the first half of the 18th century, press reports primarily focused on betting aspects rather than the actual play. 18th century cricket, patronage and players gambling introduced the concept of patronage, as some gamblers sought to bolster their bets by forming their own teams. This is believed to have led to the creation of the first county teams, following the Restoration in 1660, particularly as members of the nobility began employing local experts from village cricket as the earliest professionals. While the first recorded match featuring county teams dates back to 1709, such fixtures were likely being arranged well before that. The 1697 match was probably between Sussex and another county. Among the most notable early patrons were a group of aristocrats and businessmen who became active around 1725, coinciding with increased press coverage, possibly due to their influence. These individuals included the second Duke of Richmond, Sir William Gage, Alan Broderick, and Edwin Stead. For the first time, the press began to mention individual players, such as Thomas Waymark. Cricket expands beyond England. A 1793 American depiction of wicket being played in front of Dartmouth College suggests that the game arrived in North America in the late 17th century. Cricket was introduced to North America through the English colonies in the 17th century, likely before it had even reached northern England. In the 18th century, the sport spread to other parts of the globe. Colonists brought cricket to the West Indies, while East India Company mariners introduced it to the Indian subcontinent in the first half of the century. Cricket also arrived in Australia shortly after colonisation began in 1788, followed by New Zealand and South Africa in the early 19th century. Despite efforts by the upper class to promote cricket as a way to connect with the mother country, the game never gained widespread popularity in Canada. Unlike Australia and the West Indies, Canada experienced a continuous decline in cricket's popularity from 1860 to 1960. Associated with the upper class, the sport failed to appeal to the general public. In the summer season, cricket faced competition from baseball. During the First World War, Canadian units stationed in France chose to play baseball instead of cricket. Development of the laws. The exact origins of the basic rules of cricket, such as the bat and ball, wicket, pitch dimensions, overs, and methods of dismissal, are unclear. In 1728, the Duke of Richmond and Alan Broderick established Articles of Agreement to define the code of practice for a specific game. This practice became common, particularly in relation to payment of stake money and distribution of winnings, given the importance of gambling. The laws of cricket were first codified in 1744 and subsequently amended in 1774 to include innovations like leg before wicket, LBW, the middle stump, and maximum bat width. These laws stipulated that the principal shall choose from amongst the gentlemen present 2 umpires who shall absolutely decide all disputes. The codes were developed by the so-called Star and Garter Club, whose members ultimately founded the Marylebone Cricket Club, MCC, at Lord's in 1787. The MCC immediately assumed the role of custodian of the laws and has continued to make periodic revisions and recodifications. Continued growth in England. Cricket continued to spread throughout England, with Yorkshire being mentioned as a venue for the first time in 1751. The original form of bowling, rolling the ball along the ground, was superseded sometime after 1760 when bowlers began pitching the ball and experimenting with variations in line, length, and pace. Scorecards were kept on a regular basis from 1772, providing a clearer picture of the sport's development. Among the earliest famous clubs were London and Dartford in the early 18th century. London played its matches on the Artillery Ground, which still exists. Other notable clubs emerged, including Slindon in Sussex, backed by the Duke of Richmond and featuring the star player Richard Newland. Additional prominent clubs included Maidenhead, Hornchurch, Maidstone, Sevenoaks, Bromley, Addington, Hadlow, and Chertsey. However, the most renowned of the early clubs was Hambledon in Hampshire. It began as a parish organisation that gained prominence in 1756. The club itself was founded in the 1760s and enjoyed significant patronage, serving as the focal point of the game for approximately 30 years until the formation of the MCC and the opening of Lord's Cricket Ground in 1787. Hambledon produced several outstanding players, including the master batsman John Small and the first great fast bowler Thomas Brett. Their most notable opponent was the Chertsey and Surrey bowler Edward "Lumpy" Stevens, believed to have been the main proponent of the flighted delivery. In response to the flighted, or pitched, delivery, the straight bat was introduced. The old hockey stick style of bat was primarily effective against the ball being trundled or skimmed along the ground. First-class cricket began in 1772. 3 surviving scorecards. From 1772, matches organised by the Hambledon Club marked the start of a continuous statistical record. These matches were all between a Hampshire 11 and an England XI, with the first taking place at Broadhalfpenny Down on June 24 and 25. The 2 leading online archives begin their first-class coverage with this match, which is numbered First Class No. 1 by ESPN Cricinfo and F1 by Cricket Archive. Broadhalfpenny Down continued to be used regularly by Hambledon, Hampshire teams until 1781. 19th century cricket. In the 19th century, cricket underwent significant changes. County clubs were formed, and a travelling team called the All England 11 helped popularise the game. The development of railways made it easier for teams and spectators to travel to matches. Overarm bowling was legalised, and W.G. Grace's career significantly boosted cricket's popularity. International cricket begins. International cricket began in 1844 with a match between the US and Canada. England toured North America and Australia in the 1850s and 1860s. The first Test matches were played between England and Australia in 1877, leading to the Ashes rivalry. South Africa joined as a Test nation in 1889. Decline in baseball-playing countries. Cricket was initially popular in America but was surpassed by baseball during the Civil War. Baseball's shorter duration and flexibility in playing locations contributed to its rise. Similar trends occurred in Japan and Latin America, where cricket faced competition from baseball due to American influence and the concentration of cricket among expatriates. Growth in the colonies. The British promoted cricket as a game embodying a certain type of manliness and morality, aligning with prevailing ideas of British racial and imperial superiority. Cricket was seen as providing participants with the strength necessary to expand the empire while also unifying the colonies with Britain. Cricket experienced significant growth in many colonies during this period, as colonized peoples viewed it and other British sports as a source of nationalistic pride and an opportunity to challenge their colonizers. It also served as a means for colonial subjects to anglicize themselves and gain power. National championships. A significant development in domestic cricket occurred in 1890 with the establishment of the official county championship in England. Shortly thereafter, in May 1894, the sport's first-class standard was officially defined. This organizational initiative has been replicated in other countries. Australia established the Sheffield Shield in 1892–93, followed by the Currie Cup in South Africa, Plunket Shield in New Zealand, and Ranji Trophy in India. The ICC redefined first-class status as a global concept in 1947. The period from 1890 to the outbreak of World War I is often viewed with nostalgia, primarily due to the teams playing cricket according to the spirit of the game. However, the era's significance also stems from its peaceful nature, which was shattered by the war. This period has been dubbed the Golden Age of cricket, and featured numerous legendary names such as Grace, Wilfred Rhodes, C.B. Fry, Ranjit Singh Ji, and Victor Trumper. Balls per over. During most of the 19th century, standard overs consisted of 4 deliveries. In 1889, 5 ball overs were introduced in first-class cricket, with a transition to generally use 6 ball overs in 1900. In the 20th century, 8 ball overs were used at times in several countries, primarily Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand. However, since the 1979-80 Australian and New Zealand seasons, 6 balls per over have been used worldwide. The most recent version of the laws exclusively permits 6 ball overs. 20th century cricket. Growth of international cricket. Cricket was introduced to various colonies around the world. The Imperial Cricket Conference, ICC, was founded in 1909 with England, Australia, and South Africa as its founding members. The ICC included the Marylebone Cricket Club, the Australian Board of Control for International Cricket, and the South African Cricket Association as its original associations. The conference aimed to regulate international cricket among these 3 nations, which were considered to be of equal status at the time. In 1926, both New Zealand and the West Indies were admitted as members, allowing them to play Test cricket against the other sides. However, at this time in the West Indies, cricket was primarily dominated by the white population. Initially, the ICC was not interested in expanding the international popularity of cricket. The organization was reluctant to invite non-Commonwealth nations to play. New Zealand was restricted to playing 3-day Test matches. New Zealand and India both became Test-playing nations before World War II, followed by Pakistan in 1952. At Pakistan's suggestion, the ICC was expanded to include non-Test playing countries from 1965, with associate members being admitted. Simultaneously, the organization changed its name to the International Cricket Council. The first limited overs World Cups were played during the 1970s, and Sri Lanka became the first associate member to be elevated to Test playing status in 1982. Due to the ICC's predominantly Western nature, the founding countries decided who was allowed to join the conference or engage in Test cricket. There was no desire or attempt to create a set of associate nations that would play Test status, which is why countries such as Sri Lanka were not permitted to participate until the 1980s. The international game continued to grow with the introduction of affiliate member status in 1984, a level of membership designed for sides with less history of playing cricket. In 1989, the ICC renamed itself the International Cricket Council. Zimbabwe became full members in 1992, followed by Bangladesh in 2000. Afghanistan and Ireland were both admitted as Test sides in 2018, bringing the total number of full members of the ICC to 12. Suspension of South Africa from 1970 to 1991. South Africa's apartheid policy led to its suspension from international cricket in 1970. In response, South Africa began offering large sums of money to international players to form teams and tour South Africa, known as rebel tours. The ICC blacklisted players who participated in these tours, but some accepted due to financial incentives. Despite continued rebel tours, South Africa eventually rejoined international cricket in 1991 following the end of apartheid. World Series cricket. A turning point. Financial concerns of top cricketers played a significant role in another crisis that emerged in 1977. Australian media mogul Kerry Packer, dissatisfied with TV rights agreements, clashed with the Australian Cricket Board. Capitalising on low player remuneration, Packer established World Series Cricket, WSC, a privately run league operating outside the official international cricket structure. WSC offered lucrative contracts to some of the world's best players, including banned South African players, providing them with an opportunity to showcase their talents against other international stars. While the schism only lasted until 1979, with rebel players eventually reintegrated into international cricket, the impact of WSC was profound. Many players found the national teams had moved on, but the long-term consequences of WSC included a significant increase in player salaries and lasting innovations like colored clothing and night matches. Essentially, WSC paved the way for the development of 21st-century cricket leagues like the Indian Premier League. Limited overs cricket. In the 1960s, English county teams began experimenting with a limited overs format, featuring one innings per side and a maximum number of overs. Starting as a knockout competition in 1963, limited overs cricket gained popularity, leading to the creation of a national league in 1969 and a subsequent reduction in county championship matches. Limited overs matches are officially categorized as List A. While many traditional cricket fans opposed the shorter format, limited overs cricket offered the advantage of delivering a result within a single day, making it more appealing to younger or busier audiences. Commercially, it proved to be successful. Cricket's popularity surged in South Asia following India's victory in the 1983 Cricket World Cup. The first limited overs international match took place at Melbourne Cricket Ground in 1971 as a filler after a test match was abandoned due to rain. Initially intended as an experiment to provide player exercise, this match proved immensely popular. Limited overs internationals, LOIS or ODIs, have since become a massively popular form of the game, particularly for those seeking to watch a complete match within a shorter time frame. In response to this trend, the International Cricket Council organised the first Cricket World Cup in England in 1975, with all test-playing nations participating. Analytic and graphic technology limited overs cricket significantly boosted television ratings for cricket coverage. Innovative techniques introduced in limited overs matches were subsequently adopted for test coverage. These innovations included in-depth statistical analysis, graphical presentations, miniature cameras in stumps, multiple camera angles, high-speed photography, and computer graphics technology, enabling viewers to study the trajectory of a delivery and better understand umpires' decisions. In 1992, the use of a third umpire to adjudicate run-out appeals using television replays was introduced in the Test series between South Africa and India. Over time, the third umpire's responsibilities have expanded to include decisions on other aspects of play, such as stumpings, catches, and boundaries. Since 2011, the third umpire has been called upon to moderate reviews of umpires' decisions, including LBW, with the aid of virtual reality tracking technologies like Hawkeye and Hotspot. However, even with these measures, some disputed decisions remain a source of heated controversy. 21st Century Cricket expansion of the game. In June 2001, the ICC introduced a Test Championship table, and, in October 2002, a One-Day International Championship table. As indicated by ICC rankings, the various cricket formats have remained a major competitive sport in most former British Empire countries, notably the Indian subcontinent, and new participants including the Netherlands. In 2017, the number of countries with full ICC membership increased to 12 with the addition of Afghanistan and Ireland. The ICC expanded its development program to produce more national teams capable of competing at various formats. Development efforts are focused on African and Asian nations, as well as the United States. In 2004, the ICC Intercontinental Cup brought first-class cricket to 12 nations, many for the first time. T20 cricket, a relatively new format introduced in 2003, has gained immense popularity and attracted large attendances and television viewership. The inaugural ICC 2020 World Cup tournament was held in 2007. The formation of 2020 leagues, such as the Indian Cricket League, unofficial, and Indian Premier League, has generated much speculation about their impact on the future of cricket. Formats shorter than T20 have also emerged at the domestic level, including the T10 format, played in leagues organised by various associate and full members. Additionally, the 100-ball format, featuring 5 balls per over and the ability to bowl 2 consecutive overs, is played in the 100, a major limited overs competition in England.